As quoted by Helen Mulwaka Barnes, colonisation has deeply harmed Māori communities, seriously and consistently undermining their vitality, aspiration and potentials. This helps me realise how colonialism has affected Māori in a way that their culture has dissipated over time. Poets of Māori descent have commonly expressed a sense of loss through their writings in an emotive way that engages readers to associate with their feeling. Kia ora. Today I'll be analysing the process of historical and cultural trauma through two key thematic connections. These are the idea of sorrow and loss, and the central importance of tupuna and the passing on of knowledge. These ideas are portrayed in poetry through Jack Carter's Porphyry, Katerina Maitaida's Restoring the Ancestral House, Phil Kanawa's Urupa, and Trixie Te Arama Menzies' Harakiki. The author of the poem Porphyry, Jack Carter, stated, "Yes, I define myself as a Māori poet, and that I have, and therefore my poetry, has a perspective that is different from the usual or mainstream Pākehā New Zealand one. And this is despite my growing up Pākehā in a Pākehā household, not knowing I was Māori, or also Māori as well as Pākehā." This encompasses the idea of loss through generations of colonialism, through loss of land, language and ancestral connection. This poem also develops further the central importance of tupuna and the passing on of culture, knowledge and te reo for the future. This is seen through the introduction of the poem, which encompasses, "My sadness is that what I know was not told to me by my kaumata. My sadness is that I don't have the reo, that what I feel can't be fully told." These losses significantly become clear as they are listed out to greater understand the extent of loss. The author Carter expressed that she wasn't aware of the whakatauki or proverbs that tell us that the language is the life force of the culture. She thinks that it's been crucial to her journey and needs to be learned in conjunction with tikanga. Here we see how the author has understood how significant language is and how crucial this was for her to begin to find a connection. The customs and traditions of Māori culture have been lost through generations, and this is the main loss which is encompassed in this poetry through the theme of sadness. The loss of language is also carefully mentioned by using both English and te reo within this poem. This shows Walter Magnolo's concept of bilanguaging as an ideological construct. This term means to blend the two languages and cultural systems and at the same time separate them. Therefore, by reading a poem with the inclusion of two languages, Jack Carter acknowledges and celebrates the fusing of culture, which demonstrates her support for culturally fluid identities. It is also said that to know a language in the context of its culture is a tribute to the people whom it belongs. This summarises the author Carter, that although she realised her heritage recently, it is not too late to develop the connection with ancestors through the language. This is what I interpret through the poem, where both languages are included in order to represent both of her cultural backgrounds. Comparatively, Katerina Maitaida's Restoring the Ancestral House demonstrates the idea of loss again through the connection of ancestors and how intergenerationally knowledge has been lost. The poem expresses, "Let the master craftsman return from the loosened tuku panel to guide the untutored hand." And this shows how the individual in the poem, being the author, was not taught how to restore a house, and as a result, this knowledge has not been taught. This links to the deprivation of ancestral connection, as the past learnings have not been taught, so the learning has been lost. Both poems develop the idea of loss by the current generation not having a strong connection with their cultural values and traditions through ancestral ideas. The severance of today's society and Māori culture is noticed as the expression of these losses is quite dramatically stated in a way that engages the audience through the tone. Additionally, Phil Kanawa's Urupa also encompasses the element of loss through the loss of land. This is through the inclusion of the phrase, "The land around us was seized and sold years ago." From this, the readers of the poem understand that land is significant to Māori, and that the loss of this connection creates a severance still evident to date. This poem is connected to the above poems, where loss is a key thematic element used in order to express the impacts of colonisation through generation. In conclusion, the process of historical trauma which has impacted on the tangata whenua is still reflected in today's society between the two cultures of Māori and Europeans. The public needs to consciously continue the coexistence of biculturalism. This is because the hegemonic culture of Europeans has rejected the growing inclusion of Te Reo Māori in the past, and therefore this has led to the rejection of revitalisation of the language Te Reo Māori. In doing so, the entire culture and cultural livelihood is also diminished. The heritage needs to continue to be accepted before this intergenerational loss results in a loss of an entire culture of the native people of New Zealand. Thank you.